What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. Welcome in to another edition of the NFL Weekly, presented by the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. With me, as always, is Raider Jim Martinez, my friend and co-host. He is going to help me break down week 3. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. Here we are. It was today is the 18th of September that we're recording on. Yesterday was the 17th, meaning the official change. We have gone from summer into the fall, and that can only mean one thing. When you walked out first thing in the morning and stepped out, it's like, oh, it's getting a little chilly. That's because the autumn wind was coming upon you, and watch out.
We got our kind of let's say warning this Sunday that autumn wind was going to come through. I think we all heard the old NFL Films clip rolling through as the Raiders took down the Ravens. Of course, we are going to break down, of course, all the games, some of the games for this weekend, touch on most of them. But of course, as always, we are going to look back at week 2. And I'll be honest, the kind of the question I threw out there, and there's another topic I didn't put on there, and we will talk to after we kind of clean up week 2, because unfortunately that game was last Thursday, and sometimes after 14, 15 games, when I put the rundown together, I hit send and realize, oh wait, we need to talk about Tua. So we will get to that. But really, the big question after kind of a weird week 1, did week 2 answer any more questions or make anything more clear for you, Raider Jim? Your thoughts?
No, I think actually it's going to take till week 4 before I have a real good, clear vision on what's going on out there. Things I thought would happen last week just didn't happen. The Raiders, I did not think my Raiders were going to go on the road to play that juggernaut, that powerhouse, the Ravens, and stop them the way they did. But hats off to them, and I was real happy about it. But that was just one of many games where you just sat and went, wow, that was something. On my list for, what else do we have? What about week 2 that stood out for me? It's what you alluded to and what we talked about last week on the podcast, how well the Dolphins do. How well their season goes is going to be contingent upon how healthy can Tua stay. And wow, that was a terrible thing to see. They're saying at the best he is out until week 8. That's a long way to go without the guy that's holding the wheel to your ship. So we'll see what happens. But then it becomes the question of ethics. Do the Dolphins shut him down? Do they say he's a grown-ass man and he can make his own decision? Now, I think at some point you've got to be responsible and set him aside and go, you know what? And maybe his family should do that too. I'm sure he's not going to be unpaid if he doesn't play, but still, this is too serious now in my book.
Yeah, the Tua situation, obviously. I guess that was the one positive last Thursday. I honestly, full disclosure, wasn't able to watch the game. I don't know if it was Amazon Prime or if it was my internet, even though all my other apps were running well, but fine, whatever. So I didn't actually get to see the game. It just got too frustrating when, it's buffering every 15 seconds. But seeing the replay and all that stuff, the first thing that popped into my mind was, and I don't want to ever tell anyone, or especially another adult or a grown human being, what I think is best for them. But I do believe at the very least, the next time we see Tua, can we put a guardian cap on him? And I don't know if there's a stigma. Maybe there is. I personally don't really even notice them unless it's like right next to him or it's a single shot. But on the field, I don't really notice the guardian caps. I think of it very similarly as kind of like in hockey. I mean, when I started watching hockey in the early 90s, that was the beginning of, okay, everybody has to wear helmets, but everybody if you played before that, you were quote unquote grandfathered in. So you'd see one or two older guys still not rocking the lid. And then obviously that they filtered out, everyone went to helmets, and then it kind of kept going. Now everyone has to wear a visor. And I do think, next we're seeing the throat guards. I think that'll be happening in the next 5 years. And the reason I bring that up is I do wonder if we get to a point where in 5 to 10 years, guardian caps are just the norm. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know why we have to wait that long. Performance wise, things like that, obviously, I don't know. But I really hope that the decisions that these players are making to not wear it isn't because of a bravado or a, I don't know the word I'm looking. Well, I do know the word I'm looking for, but I can't use it. But just a wussy, or makes you look less like a man or something like that. I hope that's not the reason why we are not seeing more players wear them. Now, in Tua's situation, I think it definitely needs to be brought up. Now, I will say on the outside, obviously, it's really easy for us to say we need to, he needs to get shut down. He does. And thank goodness. I mean, I think I saw the other day the Dolphins said, no, he's not going on IR. And I think there were a lot of people who went, hey. And the next day they did put him on IR. But I think this decision needs to come down to Tua and his family. I respect Antonio Pierce. I think he's going to be a good head coach, but I didn't exactly like that he just kind of so matter-of-factly was like, look, you need to retire. And it's easy, again, for all of us on the outside to look at that, but Tua is a very smart individual, but football is his life. And it's easy for us to go, oh, just stop playing. It's very difficult for him. And I just hope that I hope it's his family. I don't think the Dolphins can really be any part of this other than waiting for his decision. Mainly because I don't know which way they'll pull him. But I really think it's between him and his family. Either decision that he makes is his decision. I'll be perfectly fine with it. But either way, we have to stop seeing what he did the other night, putting the shoulder down, trying to run. I respect it, trying to pick up the first down, even though you're like 4 yards beyond it. But we got to kind of start looking to, through the forest instead of the trees in front of us, if you will. But yeah, it's overall, it was a really kind of rough way to start the week.
Absolutely.
And all that. But at the end of the day, I just want Tua and all of these players to be healthy, and that when their career has ended, they have the healthiest lives possible. There are going to be some ailments with joints and stuff like that. But, I'm speaking as someone that my favorite football player of all time, unfortunately, took his own life because of CTE. Of course, that's Junior Seau. So I want to see what's best, but at the same time, I also understand that it's not my position to tell Tua what to do, but hopefully whatever he does, he makes the decision for him and his family long-term rather than short-term financially. And that's what I am a little worried about. Is that paycheck. And I don't think anybody believes that Tua, even if for whatever reason the Dolphins do say, you know what, we're ripping up your contract, you're not getting a single dollar. I think Tua will find a place to won't be as thrilling as football, but he'll find a place to be able to support his family and
put him on the coaching staff.
Yeah, there's a place for him. I know, and it's kind of like up to him whether it goes into media. I mean, he's a pretty well-spoken guy. Even to coaching, things like that. I don't know. It's just a really, really tough subject. And it seems like we talk about this quite a lot. I mean, I think last week we were like, hey, we're good. Like, all right, he got through, we're getting through it. And then, 24 hours later that happens. But any other final thoughts on that or week 2, Raider Jim?
Week 2, other notes that I had were, let's see, Aaron Rodgers got his W, and that was like the last thing on my list. Okay, good for Aaron. The Saints looked real. Was so glad that I sat here last week when we were talking and said, when we talked about, are they going to cover the spread? How do you think it's going to go? And I said, depends which team shows up. They have this tendency to roll into Jerry's house and roll over the Cowboys. And wow, did they? And they looked real good. Second week in a row. So keep your eye on Coach's Saints and see what happens. The Rams, how did the Rams go from this fantastic comeback in the fourth quarter on opening night, Monday Night Football, push the Lions to the limit, albeit the Lions got the victory at the end with a fantastic drive down the field in overtime. But Arizona just schooled them. I mean, that was another game that was just really, when I saw the score, I couldn't believe it. So maybe Arizona, maybe they have finally turned the corner. Rams, they're not looking good for this week because they both of their targets are out. Cooper Kupp is going to be out this week too. So we'll see what happens with them. But, man, giving up 41 points to Arizona. And then my other one was, and, of course, there were several out there, but Jacksonville. What the heck happened to Jacksonville? And now if I'm a Jacksonville fan and they took that loss to the Cleveland Browns, of all people, now and they only put up, 13 points? I think it was. Now you look at Trevor Lawrence and go, okay, where is the blame here? Is it him? Is it the coaching? Is it the coordinators? Is it the guys in the booth? What's going on? But that was bad production. I understand the Browns have a good defense at the same time, though. That was a real head scratcher and inexcusable.
Yeah, the Jaguars are. It's flip a coin with them and Trevor Lawrence right now, and the regression is real. 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence, took big time steps with Doug Peterson, and as an Eagle fan, I don't have anything bad to say about Doug Peterson. Looked like he had kind of turned the corner. Last year had moments, but moments good and bad. This year, not so much. I think it was, were they one of the week one? I think they were up 17-0 on Miami. I know they were up on Miami, and obviously
that
Miami.
Would be correct. Yeah.
So, let's just say the last 6 quarters of Jaguar football is not incredibly, doesn't give you a whole lot of hope if you're a Jags fan. Overall, I think, and I will give my Eagles thoughts before the Eagle game preview. Might want to. I'm going to do my best, but you might want to get the small children just away from earshot of that. But I'm going to do my best. But anyways, the Cowboys. You talked about what team is going to show up. I figured it was pretty safe that. Technically at that point we hadn't hit fall. So summer Cowboys are like 25-1 under McCarthy, and I'm being a little tongue in cheek there, but you understand what I'm saying. And for them to get absolutely not just, oh wow, that Will Lutz came in, kicked the last second field goal, blah blah blah. They got boat raced, and that game was never close. And the Cowboys got to be looking around, going, hold on, we just signed Dak, we just signed CD. We don't really have any more excuses. Mike McCarthy, his seat very, very hot. And then on the other side of it too, I brought him up last week. Kevin O'Connell deserves his flowers. He is my early pick for Coach of the Year. For him to get Sam Darnold, I think he's either top quarterback rating or top passer. But he's very high on pretty much every list. Incredible for what they were able to do against the Niners, who looked unbeatable against the Jets on Monday night. And then on the other side of that, the Niners, I think we kind of joke that, maybe Christian McCaffrey is a system running back. No, they really do need Christian McCaffrey back, along with Brandon Ayuk, I understand as well. But it was I think it was 3 plus 150 or more underdogs, one straight up. So, and that was before Monday night. So that's very, very interesting, but that is also the NFL. And that is why I tracked my bets this week. I went 3-4 or 3-5, I believe, but I didn't put any or actual money on that, even though that is a lie. I did make one actual bet, but it was of course, my emotional hedge, and I cashed Falcons plus 210. But that's just me. No science behind that other than I want to win either way. Me being greedy. But yeah, the dogs were out, and another bit of Vegas kind of, I remember last week looking at that Rams Cardinals line going, how are the Cardinals 1.5 point favorites in this game? What is going on? I fell into the trap. I didn't have Admiral Akbar here to scream it's a trap to me. So it is what it is, but that's why early on, you just kind of have to take a step back, get a lay of the land. And even when week 5 and 6 rolls around, I'm certainly not going to feel terribly comfortable, but think I'll have a better idea of where every team stands going forward. But any other thoughts week 2, or should we dive into week 3, Raider Jim?
Just one last thing, and that's going back to that Saints-Cowboys game. You talk about who showed up and should the Cowboys have a little bit of worry there. Saints racked up 432 yards of offense. 190 of the yards were on the ground, 242 yards in the air. That's good shooting. I don't care who you are. And if I'm the Cowboys, wow, I mean, I would have loved to have been in that locker room just to hear what the tone was and to see what everybody really thought. And now they're going to play Baltimore this week, which is a game we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but it doesn't get any easier.
No. Yeah, this is it's a tough one for them to kind of hold this L, if you will, especially, home opener. I think it was 16 straight home games the Cowboys had won until this past Sunday. So not ideal, but once again, as I was trying to tell my brother, it's at the end of it, this is just 2 weeks in a 17-game season. You kind of sometimes have to just look at it that way. Of course, it is the first 2 weeks. We always look at it deeper, but these things happen. And now it's time to kind of get a bigger sample size as we dive into week 3. And we are going to start with the game everyone is talking about. Well, I'm being a little facetious there, but Carolina, they are heading to Vegas to face the Raiders. The Raiders are going to be 5.5-point favorites on this, and the over-under sits at 40.5. Just a reminder, these are odds courtesy of Bovada as of Tuesday, so a little early. But anyways, big news here, obviously, total is Andy Dalton is going to be starting for Carolina. Bryce Young has been benched. Plenty of meat on that bone. But Raider Jim, your thoughts? Carolina heading to Vegas as 5.5-point underdogs.
Word of the week in the Raider Nation: complacent. Don't get complacent with what you did last week. What happened last year? Oh, we're going to go to Chicago. We're going to take care of business with the Bears. Nope. Oh, we're going to play the Patriots, and the Patriots are the doormat of the league. Nope. Didn't work out, did it? So they can't do that. Now they have to have that, like I say in college basketball when I'm watching the Zags play or any other team. Got to have that killer instinct. You got to be okay with saying, keep your foot on the gas and keep going through the fourth quarter, through the whistle, run through the finish line, all those sports cliches. So Vegas, or the Las Vegas Raiders, have a great chance to start 2-1. The defense is showing that they're going to keep the offense in the game. And I think the little exchange, and it was a motivational brotherhood type of exchange between Max Crosby and Gardner Minshew, was actually a very, very good thing. And now it's the offense here and the defense here. Now it was like, we got a team. And when you got that going and you get the setup like the Carolina Panthers, because let's be honest, that's not a real tough game. You saw what they did against the Chargers. Week 1, they also didn't play well. So, this is the Raiders' game to lose, and they're playing at home. And so I think they feel like they kind of owe it to the fans to go out there and put on a real show on both sides of the ball. You got Spillane's just going crazy out there playing linebacker. They finally have a good linebacker. Christian Wilkins has come in, and oh my God, that is a bad man. And I don't know if you saw the highlight of Crosby sacked somebody, and Wilkins came up from behind, ran up from behind, and jumped over him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a big dude to be doing that kind of nonsense. I don't think I could go over a fire hydrant right now. But yeah. So there's a lot of things lining up positively for the Raiders. Minus 5.5, I think they'll cover. I think they win by 6. And the over-under on this one you have down is 40.5. I don't know if Carolina is going to score a lot of points. That's the only thing. They're not the Ravens. They're not the Chargers. I don't know that they're going to put up 20 against the Raiders, and shame on the Raiders kind of if they do. But I will keep it under 41 in this one.
Yeah, the only thing I'm with you. I like under on that as well. I will buy the 0.5 point there. The only thing that does give me a little bit of pause is, look, Andy Dalton, he's not going to win MVP. He's not going to tear things up. But he is going to be he's a little calmer back there. He's not going to make some of the same mistakes, or at least maybe he'll read things a little bit better than Bryce Young. I don't think Bryce Young is done. I know there are a lot of people who are already saying, oh, he's the worst number 1 pick ever. I think we got to have a little bit of context into this. I think what we're seeing with Baker Mayfield is, look, sometimes it is the situation you're put in. And I don't know if there's a quarterback on this planet outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes that could be dropped into Carolina and change anything that's going on there. This is a team. I mean, they've given up, I believe, 40 points the last 2 weeks. So Bryce Young wasn't playing defense last time I checked. It's a really tough situation for everyone involved. I think this is best for Bryce Young, because I was starting to feel, not like he needs my pity or anything, but I was starting to feel bad for him. I didn't like his body language. Maybe that's on him, but he just looked like he was ready to just break down and start sobbing it. And I wouldn't honestly blame him at that point. But it was a tough look. I think it's good that, get Andy Dalton in there, get a win or two, just calm everything down. And because right now, you said this is, the Raiders game to lose. You have them by 6. I have them by 60, because I haven't seen anything from Carolina that would tell me. I mean, maybe I should say I'm worried about 2 things on the over under. I'm maybe worried that the Raiders put up 42 points on their own. I mean, like I said, that's kind of what we've seen from the Panthers. Now on the Raiders side of things, before we hit record, I had told you, I was like, I was watching that Raven game through Red Zone, and it was kind of like every time they would and it was a crazy 10 a.m. slate on Red Zone. I tell you, I complained last week that I wanted things to slow down. This week was even worse. But anyways, the Raiders they were kind of an afterthought until all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, Devontae Adams just caught a touchdown. They just took the lead. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It was old school, or at least, old new school Raiders. I said Gruden 1.0 back in, the late 90s, that type of stuff. I loved the fight. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo probably will check more boxes than Gardner Minshew will on a scouting report. But I tell you what, in a locker room, I'm taking Gardner Minshew 11 times out of 10, because this is a guy that's going to go out there. He understands who he is, what he is. He's not this prima donna. He's not all about me. Let's go out, let's win the game. And he's just a dude. Let's just be honest.
Right.
Like, this is a guy you could walk into a Friday night in a random bar in some small town, and you will see a Gardner Minshew, just a really cool dude. Plenty of stories, crazy. And the Max Crosby, Gardner Minshew, I loved it. And it's kind of come out that was more of like Max Crosby going, look, we're like, you are our quarterback. Like, you keep doing what you're going to do. And that's the type of stuff that I don't know if Gardner Minshew needs it, but I think it will help, because he is that gunslinger. He needs to kind of have that ability to shoot from the hip sometimes. And at the end of the day, the defense picked him up, and Gardner Minshew paid him back with a victory. Super, super excited for you and the Raiders. And I love Gardner Minshew. I've loved Gardner Minshew for quite some time. And I'm glad that, the Minshew mania went the right way for the Raiders. And this is a very, very winnable game. And it would be a travesty if they lost, if I'm being completely honest. But it is Andy Dalton. The Red Rocket might still have a few tricks up his sleeve. I am still going to take the Raiders until the Panthers show me any signs of life. It's the other team with the points. I don't know what else to say when it comes to Carolina, but moving on, but staying in the AFC West, team that just had a little bit of fun getting nice and fat and happy off the Carolina Panthers, the Los Angeles Chargers. They're heading to Pittsburgh. They are going to face the 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 1.5 point favorites. The over-under sits at a paltry 35.5. We still don't know who is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and please do not ask Mike Tomlin, because I think the next person who does might be assaulted. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Chargers heading to the Steel City.
I actually checked that right before we went on, and they are saying it is going to be Fields.
Yeah,
they're saying Russell Wilson is still not 100%, which is not good, because Pittsburgh has become the most boring offense in the NFL. I mean, they really are. You think back to some of the guys that have quarterbacked that team, you know, you got Big Ben, you go back to Terry Bradshaw, you think about the way the ball was thrown around and holes were open and guys were running crazy. And now, you know, you're lucky if you get 13 points out of these guys. Chargers, on the other hand, have played two good games, one against the Raiders and, of course, one against the Panthers. Only thing I am wondering is I also read that Justin Herbert did not practice and he's got a bit of an ankle issue. And of course, they do the politically correct thing and say, oh, it's not bad. And he's fine. He'll be fine by game time, says the guy who's not going to put the cleats on and run or get chased by Watt, you know, so anything can happen. Still, though, with that said, even though the little bit of question as to Herbert, Pittsburgh doesn't even get the 3-point home advantage courtesy cushion on this. 1.5 points, and I don't know how they're getting the 1.5 points. I would think the Chargers should be the favorite on the road. The defense has played very, very well, too. They played very well last week. I got to give it to Bosa. He was out there. He had 2 real good games back-to-back. Keeps healthy. Chargers are going to be hard to reckon with down the road. But in this one, I'm going to have to go. If it's going to be 1.5, I'm going to take money line Chargers. Under 36 for sure, because I can see the Chargers putting up 24 points, 27 points. I don't see the Pittsburgh putting up that much. Maybe we get a 27-10, which would screw everything. I look more to 24-10.
Yeah, I personally like the over here. You kind of brought up the old, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger, and I didn't see Terry Bradshaw. My kind of first recollection of the Steelers was either Neil O'Donnell and then kind of leading into the Cordell Stewart situations. But even with Ben Roethlisberger, like they would throw the ball all over. I always used to joke that Pittsburgh, no matter how good they are, you could go find a random high school team. They're only going to beat them by a field goal. The Steelers didn't matter. They were only going to win by a field goal. And that was, of course, with Roethlisberger. And I remember thinking, you know, man, I thought the Steelers offense was kind of boring sometimes with, you know, the way when Roethlisberger was back there. I would kill to see that now. And going back to Wilson versus Fields, I'll be honest. So Russell Wilson has been the quote unquote emergency quarterback. And that's the new rule. Well, last year it was brought in. It was essentially, if you remember, when the Eagles took down the Niners in the NFC Championship game, Purdy got hurt, and then Josh Johnson got hurt. That offseason, the NFL essentially said, look, that person, you can make an emergency quarterback. He will be inactive, and the only way he can play is if the other quarterbacks are completely out. So he has been the emergent, which tells me he is at least healthy to be thought of. So my thought process is Justin Fields is the better quarterback, but Mike Tomlin doesn't either want to say it or the Steelers organization don't want to admit. I don't know what it is, but Justin Fields is going to start more than likely. That's kind of what I expected. In this game, I just think with such a low number of 35.5, maybe it's Arizona and the Rams all over again. And I know these offenses aren't tearing things up, but I mean, even the Chargers, I know it was against Carolina, but they put up 40 plus points. They have the ability to do it. I think the offensive line, I mean, both tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, wherever TJ Watt lines up, I think at least if he's on the edge, he's going to have a tough time. I like the Chargers here as well. I also like the over, just because, like I said, I mean, someone could fall forward twice and we hit the over. Like that's how low of a number this is. You kind of even brought up 27-10 or something, even a late field goal or something. You're like, wow, okay, 38, it hit 38. And you kind of look and you're like, man, that was such a low number. But yeah, that's just my thought process. I think the Chargers do get the job done in Pittsburgh until the Steelers offense shows me anything. I'm going to probably go with the other side of it. And I understand that defense might be the best in football. I get that, but the Chargers offense, at least offensive line, I think will definitely be able to go toe to toe with the Steelers. Yeah. Moving on to one of the biggest lines. Yeah. The biggest line we are going to be talking about. It is the Denver Broncos They're heading to Tampa to face the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield continues his career resurgence in Tampa. The Buccaneers are 7-point favorites, and the over-under sits at 40. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Denver at Tampa.
You made the remark last week, and I think you hit that nail on the head. Sean Payton. Wow, it's not the same luster that it was down in New Orleans, is it? And he has really struggled. He's struggling again now. Just to be a enterprising capitalist pig like I can be sometimes, I think what you and I need to do is pool together some funds, go walk the parking lot in Denver or any other stadium where they're playing, and we start selling T-shirts that say Knicks Knicks. And because they are talking about benching the guy. I mean, and that's wow. I said it at the beginning of the year. Do you really want to put all your eggs in that basket? He is a rookie. I don't care how old of a rookie he is or how good he is. You know, this is the NFL. This is not college anymore. And now here we are, week 3. They're already talking about Sean Payton's considering possibly making a change. On the other side of that ball, that home team, Baker and the boys, man, he's just playing ball. That's all there is to it. He's, you know, what's my job? My job is to go out, play football on Sunday, keep myself healthy, and then, you know, watch the films, do my practices, and on Sunday, let's play ball. And I think Tampa Bay's looking pretty good. They have a good setup for week 3. I think definitely now -7. Normally, I would say that's a little bit much, but this isn't the old Denver Broncos. This is the new look Denver Broncos. I'd still probably buy that half a point and go 6.5 on this one. Tampa Bay's going to win this one. I looked up the weather. It is going to be like 88 degrees at game time. And there is a 16% chance, which is not great, but it's a 16% chance of isolated thunderstorms, which always wreaks havoc because then they're going to like stop the game and make everybody go inside until it dries up or whatever. So that is a consideration, but at 16%, I don't think it's going to materialize. Over under at 40, I don't see Denver putting up points. I see Tampa Bay scoring just enough points to, you know, a comfortable win, 28-7, something like that. Now, could you get 28-14? Probably. So I will take the over in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well. And I think Tampa Bay is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in this one. Yeah, Bo Nix, outside of Cortland Sutton, I don't know if anybody could name anyone on the Broncos offensive side of the ball. They have no weapons. And again, this is Sean Payton was supposed to be able to come in, wave a magic wand, and everybody in front of him was going to turn into the 2012 Saints, whatever it was. Not the case. And the Broncos are in a tough position because they did just take a quarterback early, and I was surprised that they did that. They were all gung-ho on him, and now they're looking around going, uh-oh, but at the same time, you know, what do you expect the kid to do? He's got nothing. At this point, you know, put Zach Wilson out there until you get the kid some weapons. It's just killing his confidence right now. Tampa Bay on the other side, though, I mean, goodness gracious, this team last year, we were wondering, oh, is it a flash in the pan? It is not a flash in the pan. This team is a not only legitimate contender, I believe, in the NFC South. I think this team's a legitimate contender in the NFC. I really do think it's that good. I've been a fan of what this organization has kind of put together. They've always kind of been a quarterback away. I mean, this is a franchise that won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. So they've always had auxiliary help. It's just we've never really seen Tampa Bay outside of the Tom Brady years with a good quarterback. And when Baker came there, he wasn't he was brought in to be the starter, but he wasn't brought in to be the new kind of face. And that's what's happening. And honestly, he's such an endearing guy. He's really, when he was younger, he kind of got on my nerves. And I think a lot of it was every other commercial was the, whatever, Allstate or State Farm. That's not really his fault, but no, now I think he's a little more humble. And I think he realizes that, okay, this is kind of my last shot in terms of this game. Kind of similar to Carolina. until Denver shows me something different, I got to lay the points, especially when they go on the road, because Mile High is always kind of a weird one. But last week we saw that didn't really matter. So give me Tampa Bay. I am going to buy a half a point. Give me 6.5 just in case. But I do like the over here. I think, what is it, 40 we had listed down? Yeah, like I said, I could see this being 35-10, 31-10. I think Tampa's going to score. They're at home. Mike Evans is still somehow outpacing Father Time. Really, really excited to see what Tampa can put on the field. But this is also another game that kind of we've seen the NFL be so wacky. Is this a situation where the Broncos somehow get right in front of our eyes and we go, what in the world just happened? I don't think so. I'm not going to bet on it, but I certainly wouldn't be terribly surprised. Because, as kind of laissez-faire I am about Sean Payton, he is still a pretty darn good coach. So,
yeah. Now, is it too early? Is it too early to think that we could be seeing the revenge Super Bowl, Raiders, Tampa Bay?
Yes, way too early. Sorry, Raider Jim. I love you, and I have way too much respect for you to start walking down that path. If you want to start going down Tampa Bay's path, I will walk with you for a little bit. But as a friend, I cannot allow you to go down. Not yet. You know what? The Raiders, handle business the next 2 weeks. We can revisit that subject, but not right now, sir. I apologize.
I'll put that one away for now.
Yeah, put a pin in it, as they say. Moving on to our final AFC West game. This is going to be Sunday night. There was no line when I pulled this up yesterday, but now there is. It is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs as 3.5-point favorites against the Atlanta Falcons. The over-under sits at 46.5. This game will be in Atlanta. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Defending champs head to Atlanta.
I think one of my favorite parts about the Kansas City win this past week was all the conspiracy theorists that came out. See, these are scripted games. They are scripted. Everybody knew what was going to happen because that's how Kansas City plays the game. Go ahead, get your points, get down there. Dare you to give us another minute and a half. Dare you to give us a minute and a half to get downfield because we'll get there. Aaron Rodgers did it when he was with the Packers. Brady did it when he was with the Patriots. So there are some guys, they're just wired to do it, and the schemes are there. They have the right scheme. They have the right talent. Let's execute. Let's do it. Kansas City, that was quite a game, and it is too bad it came down to that miscue in the defensive backfield. And I was the first one to say, oh, don't tell me they're going to call that. And then I saw the replay, and because to me it's like, yeah, he was there a little early. Nah, he was there a lot early, and then he was all over his back and on the back of his head and everything else. So, you kind of handed the game over to Kansas City at that point. But kudos to Kansas City. All I know is they walked away with a win. Now they're on the road. They're going to Atlanta. They're going to play those guys that just did the big upset, which we'll hear about in about 2 minutes. Tell you what, Atlanta, and no offense at all to the Eagles, the Chiefs aren't the Eagles.
Nope.
You are not going to have you're not going to have that easy of a time when they come into your house. And Kansas City, I think, is going to be primed at -3.5. I like it. Kirk Cousins is not going to have the success he did against the Eagles. Not that Kansas City is this defensive juggernaut, but I think Kansas City prepares very well. I think they're going to look at the films. They're going to see where things, what led to Atlanta's success, and they will find ways to combat that. So give me Kansas City. I'll take a half point. Give me Kansas City -3 on this one. Over under 46.5. Yeah, let's go. Let's take a half point there and go over 46. This could be actually be a very fun game to watch.
I fully agree. I'll tell you, when Sunday Night Football kind of came out, or their schedule, I saw this one and I went, I don't see it. I don't know what we're doing here. Before the season started, like, is this, we just want to have fun, poking fun at Kirk Cousins in prime time. But yeah, this is kind of lining up to be possibly the game of the week. Kansas City, going back to last week. So full disclosure, I watched the morning games, and obviously we're here in San Diego. I did switch over to the Padres because what a time to be a Padre fan right now. But anyways, so I was watching that, but obviously, you know, I was had in back of my mind, switched over to the Bengals Chiefs game twice. First time switched over, Mahomes throws a pick, flag comes down, illegal contact on Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, or I'm sorry, it was on whoever was covering Travis Kelce, automatic first down. See the replay. Travis Kelce looks like he's blocking him all the way downfield. Okay, fine, whatever. Then obviously we see the last play. And, you know, I didn't even watch the rest of the game. I saw the flag go out. I turned the game back off, went back to the Padres. I knew how it was going to end. It was pass interference. I will say this, though. One thing that I do think has jaded us as fans is super slow-mo. I think if you watch anything in super slow-mo, everything is going to look a little different. He was there early. My question is, if that happens and it's Joe Burrow trying to link up with Jamar Chase, does the flag come out? Again, that's my question. Because once again, it's very similar, and it hurts me to bring this up again, but it's very similar to that Super Bowl clinching penalty a few years ago against the Eagles. Did James Bradbury hold I think whoever it was? Yes. For the moment of the game, should it have been called? Probably not. Maybe this is the type of situation, week 2 versus Super Bowl. I know we're kind of getting a little off topic here, but that's my only point. It was pass interference, but my kind of counterpoint was I don't think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase get that call. Certainly not in Arrowhead. Anyways, I digress. Going to Kansas City, or moving on to the subject of Kansas City, I should say. Been talking about it all year that this is a team really, really good, and they've gotten better, might be the best we've seen. Burrow always seems to play so well against the Chiefs, no matter what his situation is going down. Same thing again. My big question for the Chiefs is 4 receptions for 39 yards for Mr. Swift. We're gonna need to see a little bit more from that. I understand you got a lot of money for your podcast. I get it, but your number one job is to be a pass catcher on the defending champs. And they have plenty now. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, he's been MIA definitely last week, but even the week before, not a whole lot there. So that's a question mark, but that's really kind of the only one I have for Kansas City. Now on Atlanta's side of things, you kind of alluded to it, and this will be a little bit of foreshadowing of what I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. But I think on paper, maybe outside of the quarterback, I think talent-wise, you can say the Eagles and Chiefs are similar. The big glaring difference is Andy Reid. The mistakes that you make against Andy Reid are going to be magnified. Mistakes made against lesser coaches, you can get away with. You can't do that here. Now, I'm not saying Raheem Morris even did make a mistake or will make a mistake, but I'm just saying if it happens, it won't be as forgiving on the game plan as it was this past Monday night. And I'm with you. Anytime anyone sees me with a 3.5 or a 3-point spread, they immediately know which way are we buying the point. This time I'm buying it down. Give me Chiefs -3. And then what I say the over, what did we have it at? 46.5. I really, this might be more of like a hopeful. I really want this to be a shootout because I think it's the only way it's a game. It's a competitive game, because if Kansas City, is up 17-0 at half, the game's over. I love Kirk Cousins, but that offense cannot come back like that. Really good stuff out of Bijan Robinson this past week. So I think for the Falcons, they got to feel good. I think for them, they just got to compete with this team. Obviously you want to win, but this is a measuring stick game for them. And if they come up a little short, that's okay. But at the end of the day, Kansas City, I think, does handle their business probably by a field goal. We do see some points, but
I have one question before we move on, and actually I had the question ready to go, and then you kind of hit on it already. So you said what I was thinking, and I thought maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention week 1 and week 2. I made the comment, how close to is Travis Kelce to becoming what Antonio Gates became? So is Kelce already more diversion than he is effect? for the Chiefs?
I mean, it's a very expensive diversion. And I think it's the only, this is really, it just popped into my head. It's kind of ironic that it's probably the only place Travis Kelce can be a diversion in the entire world is on a football field, you know? But it is early. But yeah, I do expect them to get him worked into the offense a little bit more. But I haven't been, terribly impressed with even his routes or anything like that. Like he's got to put some effort in too. I don't think we're fully at decoy level yet, but we're definitely moving in that direction, or at least that's how it seems. And like I said, I just don't think Kansas City wants to go that route because, like I said, that's a very, very expensive decoy. And again, like it's like his number 3 source of income is football. So
right,
just throwing it out there. I'm not saying anything. I'm just pointing it out that between his Pfizer sponsorship and his podcast, football is number 3 in terms of what brings the money in. So just something to think about. But yeah, we're getting there. I believe we're getting there. So moving on now, it is going to be the Eagles. They're going to head to New Orleans. But before we do talk about that game, just want to touch on this past Monday. And as I told Raider Jim before we recorded, we are recording here on Wednesday. So I've had a little less than 48 hours. We'll call it 45 hours to digest it. Thank goodness we didn't record yesterday because I probably would have just vented for 30 minutes and then actually hit record and just been like, okay, I'm just going to give my pick and move on. But that wouldn't be the professional thing to do. So we have to go back Monday night. And I know there's a lot of people outside of Eagles fandom that are looking and going, why are they overreacting? It's just 1 week. And on the outside and in the vacuum of the 2024 season, you're probably correct. This is an overreaction. However, if you are an Eagles fan, you went through arguably maybe 7 of the worst football weeks of your life. Now, don't get me wrong. The Eagles have been worse in their past, but they have never started 10-1 and not won the division and lost to Baker Mayfield in a playoff game. One and done. There were a lot of mistakes made on the coaching staff. Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, their brain trust got together and said, we're giving Sirianni another shot. They made the bed. This past Monday, we had to lay in it. Obviously, most of you have already seen it. The biggest problem I have multiple ways. First and foremost, let's start with CJ Gardner-Johnson. Makes a huge play on 4th down. Stops. There's 5.5 left in the game. He runs to the sideline. Who's chasing him? His coach. Chasing him all the way down the sideline. If you would have been if you didn't see the clock, you would have thought Atlanta has no timeouts. There's 45 seconds left in the game. They're going to kneel on it. This game's over. There was 5.5 minutes left in this game, and Nick Sirianni is taking his victory lap. Now, we continue all the way into the final, 2 minutes, or actually before the final 2 minutes. So the Eagles get down. It's 3rd and 1 from the 4-yard line because it wasn't 3rd and goal. I know that.
right.
The Falcons had used their final timeout. No more timeouts. 2-minute warning hits. 3rd and 1. Nick Sirianni decides to throw the football. Saquon Barkley drops it. Yes, Saquon Barkley dropped it. I get that. But we're not in that position without Saquon Barkley. So I just want to get out in front of that right now. Saquon Barkley played a hell of a game. Yes, he dropped the ball, but we wouldn't be there without him. First and foremost, you run the football, period. I don't care what analytics say. I don't care what book you're reading. You run the football. Then what you need to do beyond that is you go for it on 4th down, you coward. And I'm only talking to you, Sirianni. And I promise, if this seems a little aggressive, 24 hours ago, I would have jumped through this screen. 45 hours ago, I wouldn't be able to be in the same room with the man. The decision-making not only has to improve, everything has to change. Haven't forgotten about Vic Fangio. All I heard about Vic Fangio, he's been coaching football for 45 years. He's incredible. Defensive wizard. All he runs is cover 3 and cover 4. We rush 4 every single down and play soft zone. Bend, but don't break defense. And you know what? For the most part, it didn't break. Until it couldn't break, it broke anyway. They went down the field in 12 seconds. I mean, it might have been 2 minutes in real time. They were in first and goal with 1:11 left. They got the ball with like 1:40. They had no timeouts. What are we doing? Nick Sirianni, Vic Fangio, definitely at the top of my shit list. Kellen Moore, the only reason he's not on my shit list is because I did like the game plan that he had against Green Bay. I did not like this game plan. If I see the Eagles run quarterback power on 3rd and 8 one more time, I'm going to break a TV. I'm going to go full Cowboys fan and break a TV. But at the end of the day, it's week 2. We're 1-1. 15 games ahead of us. With this game, let's focus on this week. It is going to be the Eagles heading to New Orleans. Saints are going to be 2.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 49.5. I'll get out in front of this. I do like the under here. I think both of these teams, or at least the Saints, do come back to earth a little bit. Again, I just kind of screamed about the bend but don't break defense. And again, a lot of field goals we've seen from this defense that being forced. Great, fantastic. But every single drive gets a little much. But anyways, the Eagles are going to need to stop the run. The Eagles are going to need to get some sort of pass rush, or the Saints are going to win this game. I haven't seen that the first 2 weeks. I'm not going to bet on this game because the Eagles are the plus number in this one, so there is no emotional hedge here. Give me the Saints -2.5. I think they win probably by at least 3, maybe a full touchdown, maybe more. And like I said, I like the under of 49.5. I think the Saints do come back down to earth a little bit. And I'm sure if coach is listening to this, he's rolling his eyes because, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about the Saints because all my focus is on the Eagles. That is what it is. I really don't have anything to say about the Saints other than they've scored a lot of points and they're probably going to beat the Eagles this weekend. Raider Jim, I'm going to take a breath. Your thoughts, Eagles heading to New Orleans.
You know, there's a great scene in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Godfather, when Michael Corleone decides he's got the big idea. He's going to shoot the two cops, or the cop and the gangster who were responsible for shooting the Godfather himself. And when he does that, Sonny looks at him and looks at Tom Hagen, and he says, Tom, you said it. This is business. This is business. And he looks at Michael and he says, you're taking this personal, and it's just business. Just remember. That's all I could think when I was listening to you.
I do take it personally. And I should.
I do have a question before I get down to my pick, and that is, you mentioned the name. Do you think they're using Barkley to his full potential?
I think so. I mean, not in that one play. Yes. No, but I do think so. I'm not a massive fan of the workload. I like Kenny Gainwell, but I'd prefer, I don't know, maybe a James Conner type, just a secondary workhorse back that, because Saquon Barkley, he's already, probably leading the league in carries, if not yards, but they're working him a lot. And I like the way they are right now, but I expect that workload is going to have to either change or drop significantly. I just think the only problem is Kenneth Gainwell isn't the guy. Like, he's not the guy we even saw it this past week, great drive down the field. Barkley, I think he had 8-9 carries, probably 50, 60 yards, but they get to the goal line. He needs a breath. Kenny Gainwell goes in, they throw the ball 4 times, or 3 times. So I think I would say no, but at the same time, I'm so jaded right now. Like there are so many targets that I'm just easy targets around there. I'm not maybe paying attention to some of the things I have to think about a little more. Just because right now Sirianni and Fangio are such easy targets. I think a little bit later, if we're week 5, week 6, and Saquon Barkley's still leading the league in carries, I would maybe put a little bit of a on that. But I think just for my own sanity, I'm not worried too much about it. But again, I think that might just be because my worry bin is full.
Got it. Well, I think you gave a good breakdown on this game. I won't take too much time on it. I will say that based on what I've seen the first 2 weeks out of New Orleans, what I saw out of Philadelphia, the 2 games I've watched them play, I would like to go with the under. However, New Orleans came out, week 1, let's throw for 4 touchdowns. Week 2, let's run for 4 touchdowns. They're that dangerous double-headed monster out there. And they seem to be they've got good guys calling the plays and directing, what direction the ship's going to go. I think they're going to have a successful game on the offense again. I think Philadelphia is going to have a successful game. I won't take the spread. I'll take the Saints on the money line, but I think just for fun, I'll take a half point, but I still think it's going to go over 49. I won't be surprised if this is one of those games where when it's all said and done, you got 61, 62 points on the board. I think it could end up being something like that.
Yeah, this very well, I think on paper probably is the game of the week. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Unfortunately for us out here on the West Coast, it is a 10 a.m. game. So we don't kind of get that standalone slot. But if I'm being completely honest, I want to just be buried. I don't want to be standing alone anymore. It's too much. But anyways, moving on, let's get off of Brandon's pity party. Moving on to sticking in the NFC East, we have the New York Giants. They're heading to Cleveland. They'll face the Browns. The Browns are going to be 6-point favorites in this one. 38.5 is the over-under. And in case you weren't sure it could get any worse for the Giants, well, how about becoming the first team ever to score 3 touchdowns and not even give up a touchdown and lose? That is your 2024 New York Giants. They lose 21-18. No, they didn't give up 3 touchdowns. They gave up 7 field goals. Very similar to the Broncos. I'll get this one started, but very similar to the Broncos and Panthers until I see something from the New York Giants. I am not going to. Now, 6 points in this one. I mean, just for the sake of the podcast, I will make a pick. I'm not touching this with Raider Jim's money. I would say this would be probably, like I said, gun to my head. I'd probably take the Giants +6. I just don't think Cleveland is 6 points better, at least on the line and the way I kind of handicap. I don't think they're 6 points better than anyone, even if they are at home. The defense is going to be an issue, but that is why I like the under 38.5. I think we're cruising for a 17-13 thriller, if you will. And I would assume it would be the Browns. But again, the Browns, they looked so bad week 1. They looked better week 2. Have we seen flukes? Are we just going to see a below average football team? I don't know. But again, for the sake of the pod, I'll say Giants +6, but I do like the under 38.5 a good deal. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I always check the weather on the games we're going to talk about, or any game that is on the schedule. And then I also check the injury report. So to the dismay of the Giant fans, I will have to let you know, Daniel Jones, 100% healthy. So he is going to be under center. Sorry, kids.
I thought you were going to drop one on me. I was like, wait, did I miss Daniel Jones is hurt? That was good. I like that.
I agree with you. Cleveland should be the favorite at home. They got a better defense. New York Giants can't score points. At the same time, every now and then there's that game that turns around. It goes just completely opposite of what it should. Do the Giants win this one? I don't think so. Do the Giants cover the 6? Yeah. Give me a half point. I'll take the Giants +6.5, but I'm with you. I think this is under 38.5 all day long. Again, it's out there. It's going to be played. If that's an East Coast game, which it is, and we don't get to see it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, this one, I'm not going to lose any sleep missing this one. There's a very good chance that maybe the Eagles Saints score more in a half than these two teams score in a game. Just throwing it out there. But moving on to, I would say, the game of the week. It might not record wise look like that, but it is the Baltimore Ravens licking their wounds a bit as they head to Dallas. Let me just make sure this line is still, Baltimore 1-point favorites. The over under is 49. Let me make sure that hasn't moved. 48.5, 49, same thing. Raider Jim, I'm going to get this one started. Come on, Brandon. Baltimore as 1-point favorites heading to Dallas. Obviously, these are two teams are going to want to put last week behind them. And then on Baltimore's side, they're going to want to put this season so far behind them. This is such a tough one. Obviously, it's a money line pick. Whoever you go with, I mean, you want to play the 1-point spread, I guess, have fun trying to chase a push. I don't know. I would say in this situation, give me the Cowboys money line. And the reason why is, as big as I have been on the Ravens, I thought this team was going to be the one that could challenge the Chiefs, and they kind of did week one, but it doesn't look like that's going to be an issue going forward, at least in the Chiefs side of things. Lamar Jackson needs to clean his throwing up. That sounded weird. Clean his passing up. He misses way too many guys. He is undoubtedly the fastest quarterback we've ever seen, maybe besides Michael Vick. I am not disputing that. He is incredibly electric. But sometimes you need him to stay in the pocket, and sometimes you need him to read defenses and find certain players. And he's just not showing, at least this year. And really, even last year, he's not showing that ability. And until that changes, I'm going to ride with Dallas. I know last week was not ideal, but the way the Saints were playing is kind of the opposite of the way the Ravens are playing, even in their styles. The Ravens are going to want to kind of beat you up. The Saints kind of come in, hit you one or two times, and then run, get outside and kind of wear you out. This is a team the Ravens are a team that's going to come right at you. I like Dallas. I think that adds up for them a little bit better. In terms of the over under, 49 is such, like, Vegas is just right in the middle, like looking, going, yeah, what are you going to do? 49 points. I am going to take the over here, though. I think it's two offenses that really, really want to get rolling. I know Dallas had a good week one, but last week for both of these teams offensively, they need to pick it up, and I think they do, even though there are two pretty good defenses. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Baltimore 1-point favorites on the road as they head to Jerry's World and face the Cowboys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on your breakdown of Lamar Jackson and happy feet. I get it. You look across the field week one and you see Patrick Mahomes. Well, guess what? Mahomes does it, but when he does, it's out of necessity, and that's his backup. My backup are my feet. Sometimes you wonder if when Jackson goes out there, it's let's see if I'm going to run or if I'm going to throw. Mm-hmm. And like you say, the accuracy has got to improve. Otherwise, they will be 0-3 or 1-3 down the road here, not before too long. In this one against Dallas, after what I saw New Orleans did to Dallas, wow, this is really going to go down. I like the -1. I like the money line on this game because it's probably going to be a real fist fight. I'm going to go the other way just because I think Baltimore is going to put together their first win of the season, and I will take Baltimore money line. And I believe this is going to go over. I'll still take that half point at 48.5 in case we see something like, 27 to 23 type of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me 48.5 and it's going to go over, but I am going to take that Baltimore on the money line on this. Dallas, I think, got really exposed on Sunday, and good coaches, good coordinators are going to look at those films, and they're going to, replicate everything they saw from the New Orleans Saints on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be a big test for both of these teams. One of these teams is going to either be 1-3 or 0-3 or 1-2. And so I tell you what, always bring it back to the Eagles. But if you thought Eagles fans were overreacting, just be grateful the Niners and Cowboys both lost as well, or else this would be a lot different situation. And if you know what, the Ravens can go and take care of business in Dallas, it's that NFC East all of a sudden. Whoa. Especially if the Saints take care of business. All of a sudden, 1-2 between the two favorites. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But final game we are going to cover in depth. It is the final game in the NFC East. Again, if you are just joining us for your first time, welcome. But we do focus mainly on the AFC West and NFC East. We do 8 games in depth. Unfortunately, this week, we don't have any games in the division, so these are our 8 games. But anyways, we do have our final game is the Washington Commanders at the Cincinnati Bengals. I take it back. I think I said earlier the biggest line was going to be 7. This is actually the biggest line. Cincinnati going to be 8-point favorites. 48.5 is the spread. This is the second Monday Night Football game, technically. So there are 2 Monday Night Football games this week. One will be at 7:15 Eastern. That will be Jacksonville and Buffalo. Washington, Cincinnati will be at 8:15 Eastern. I really don't like this, but nobody asked my opinion. On that side of it, they did ask my opinion on the game, and I just personally think this is too big of a spread for a team in Cincinnati that is 0-2. And I understand the talent gap is a big difference. I get that. It's Monday night. I just think I would not be surprised to see Cincinnati win this game by a touchdown. And guess what? We're cashing that +8. And I haven't been totally discouraged. I mean, of all the rookie quarterbacks, I would have to imagine, I think Jaden Daniels has looked the best. And I, may put air quotes around best, but he's at least looked the most formidable. And I haven't hated what I've seen out of that team. Cincinnati has had some bad luck, but they've also, they lost to the Patriots at home. And they'll go into Arrowhead is not easy, but again, the Patriots at home played better last week, but give me Washington +8 in terms of the over-under. I'm going to go under here. I haven't seen enough from Cincinnati's offense. There's that looming kind of contract saga waiting on the back burner with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and there's just a lot of kind of storm clouds around that team. I think the offense is going to take a little while if they even get themselves figured out, but I do like the under. But yeah, Washington +8. I think Washington keep this competitive. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I questioned Cincinnati before the season even started. I'm pretty sure if you go back and check the library, it'll say, where we talked about the Chiefs have yet to plateau, has Cincinnati plateaued, and they're already on their way down, until they can level out and then have a resurgence. I'm with you. I like 8. Give me even another half point. Give me Washington at 8.5. But I think Washington's going to be competitive. I'm looking right now, and it shows about a 25% chance that they will have thunderstorms on Monday night. And that is going to really affect the over-under. So I'm with you also. I think it's going to be under. And I am not like you let off. I'm not a fan of 2 Monday Night Football games. I'm just not. Love football, love to watch football. I'll watch a morning game, an afternoon game, and the Sunday night game if I can get away with it. But 2 Monday night games, splitting the people's attention that way, especially when this is getting to be baseball teams fighting for their lives. So there's really there's not enough to go around, and I think they could have picked better Mondays. Like wait till the World Series is over and done, and if you want to pull this kind of a scheduling thing, but good for the NFL if they can pull it off and get the advertisers. But anyway, back to the game. It's going to be Washington +8.5 and under 48.5.
Yeah, they used to do doubleheader opening night or opening weekend, and they would have an East Coast and a West Coast. So you'd have the 4 o'clock, and then you'd have a 7 o'clock, or at least 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and then out here on the West Coast, blah, blah, blah. And that was fantastic because it was like a perfect end to week 1. Game 1 ends straight into game 2. It's fantastic, but 2 games pretty much starting at the same time. And neither of these games, like I said, Jacksonville at Buffalo, Washington at Cincinnati, How about Buffalo plays Cincinnati? That's the main game that we're all like, because these are like two like equally average games. And it's like, what do I watch? First world problems. We get it. I know we're complaining about too much football on Monday night, but I don't know. It's I just like the one Monday night game. Just kind of end it all focus here. I don't have to think about previous channel or anything like that. And now, as you brought up, I'm not used to, late September, October, me worrying about the Padres, but that's where we are now. So that's a good problem to have. But yeah, there's a very good chance I won't watch either of these games with the Padres playing. So we'll see. And now these are some of the other games. If we do want to touch on them, I'll just run through them in the lines real quick. Chicago, they are heading to Indianapolis. They will face the Colts. The Colts are going to be 2-point favorites in that one. The over-under sits at 43. Green Bay will head to Tennessee. It's the Malik Willis revenge game. The Titans are going to be 3-point favorites in that one. 36.5 is the over-under. Miami at Seattle. The Seahawks are going to be 5-point favorites in that one. That's an interesting line. 41.5. Actually, I take it back. 2 is not playing. I don't know why. I already forgot about that. Anyways, moving on. Detroit, 2.5-point favorites. They'll head to Arizona to face the Cardinals. That'll be a very good game. 52.5 is the over-under, highest of the weekend, I should say. The aforementioned Jacksonville at Buffalo. That is the first Monday night game. The Bills are going to be 5.5-point favorites there. The over-under sits at 45.5. The Niners, 7-point favorites as they head down to Los Angeles to face division foe, the Rams. The over-under there sits at 43. And Houston will be in Minnesota. The Texans are going to be 2.5-point favorites with the over-under sitting at 46 in that Houston, Minnesota game. Raider Jim, you got any thoughts on these games?
Yeah, the ones that stand out. I mean, we lost the Miami-Seattle game. Before the season started, that would have been on my calendar to watch. That would have been a nice one. Without Tua, I'm not as enthused about it. But I think that Detroit game, Detroit at Arizona, inside the dome, climate controlled, this is going to be good time. And 2.5 for Detroit. Yeah, I see that. And 52.5 points. I think they'll well exceed that. But wow, you might have to take Arizona +3 on this one and see what they can do. I have a feeling they're going to come out there and they're going to it's going to be gunslinging on both sides of the field. And that's going to be a fun one to watch. I would have thought the same thing, that it's a good game to watch Jacksonville and Buffalo till I've seen what Jacksonville cannot do. And I don't think it's going to be any different on Monday night. Bills are going to probably wrap that one up without too much work. Even the 49ers and the Rams, it's been a long time since we've seen that matchup where there's anybody as a 7-point favorite. And wow, that speaks for what direction the Rams are going. But at least they got a nice house when they entertain. What can you say about that? And then the other one, like we are aware, Houston, Minnesota, that also is going to be a great game to watch, or a great game to track, if nothing else. Houston on the money line on that one for sure. Minnesota at home, it's going to be interesting. And don't be surprised if this one goes over on that one. I've got over a 46 on this one.
Yeah, I'm just looking this slate up and down, and I don't know if it's a person or an entity or if it's a group of people, but the Monday Night Football people who like pick which games really kind of dropped the ball. There are so many good games that could be. I mean, like, I'm just looking down. Detroit, Arizona would be incredible. What was the one we were talking about earlier? Yeah, Kansas City, Atlanta, Houston, Minnesota. Anyways, no, I really am interested to see what we get out of Green Bay, because I'm wondering how long Matt LaFleur and Malik Willis are going to continue to be underdogs against what I would assume are inferior teams. I mean, obviously, Malik Willis isn't Jordan Love. I get that, but I think overall Green Bay has a lot more talent than Tennessee. Will Levis is a very cool, he's a very funny guy. But there's a very good chance, and I don't know the guy, is it Brian Callahan or the Tennessee head coach? There's a very real chance he assaults Will Levis on the field, and I wouldn't blame him because Will Levis is doing some really stupid stuff on the field, like really stupid stuff. We had that pick 6 that cost him the game week 1, and then this past week, he just throws the ball behind him. I mean, to the point where his coach is on the field saying, "What the bleep are you doing?"
Right.
And like I said, I thought at that point we were going to get a Bobby Knight situation on the football field, and I don't know if I could blame him. So that's interesting. I really like Green Bay in that one. Maybe even a money line thought. And then I'm interested, not really on the betting side of things. I'm so intrigued by Caleb Williams, and I want him to succeed, him being, of course, a Trojan and all that stuff. I'm just interested to see if that offensive line improves, because if that offensive line does not improve, I think the Chicago Bears really need to have a conversation about whether or not it's smart to keep Caleb Williams out there. He can only complete 5-yard passes because he doesn't have time. And if he does have time, he is forced to throw and wait for the intermediate to long routes. He's either having to scramble away, or he's getting absolutely decked on the blind side. So again, betting wise, don't really have an angle on Chicago Indy, just a little more intrigued at what we're going to see. And then for Indy's side of things, goodness gracious, Anthony Richardson, he can put some highlights together, but then you watch him in an entire game and you're just, how can you be so good and then so just not good? I don't get it. So that'll be an interesting game just to see how bad it gets. But that is all I have. Raider Jim, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts of the day. Here we are. We're saying we're really into it. And again, there's a lot going on. We're going to get a read on how the NFL is really going to line up in the next couple of weeks. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to know what's happening in the Major League Baseball playoffs, and another good time of year, because by the time the baseball wraps up, guess what? It's time for NCAA college basketball.
Oh, yeah. And then waiting right beyond the corner of that will be Breeders' Cup right down the road from us. My final thoughts, we do these final thoughts and, we'll say if it's almost Veterans Day, or, think a serviceman, man or woman, or if a tragic drunk driving thing happens, we kind of bring it up. We do those final thoughts. But at the same time, they're something that, should be thought about or at least acted upon. You see a serviceman or woman, give them the respect, whether it's Memorial Day, Veterans Day, it doesn't matter. You get it 365 days. So again, I'm just going to kind of piggyback on something every single time, or every day. I am grateful for my friend and co-host Raider Jim. But yeah, I want to kind of make my obligatory thank you to him. We put a good amount of effort into this. We, behind the scenes, doing a lot of stuff, even the technical side of things, very patient with me. And I'm very, very grateful that through kind of, if you remember us from the beginning, maybe when we weren't under this umbrella, we were elsewhere. Very, very grateful that even as bad as that was, I got a guy like Raider Jim onto my side, and we'll be there for a very long time. So this will be my mushy moment to thank you, Raider Jim, and let you know how important you are, not just in this podcast, but to me as well. But enough of the mushy stuff. This is an NFL podcast. So with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the NFL Weekly, presented by the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating, everybody. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Take care.
Peace out.